What's up guys, welcome back to another video, and in this video I'm gonna talk about the Psytrance loops and their use. So, the Psytrance loops, I used to use them a lot in the past and they were kind of characteristic of my music, and I do believe that they do create something really special when it comes to the creative world. Once I started thinking more about the sound quality itself and less about creativity, it's a normal process and I believe that everyone goes through this. First, we attach the music because of the creativity. We want to write, we want to create. And then once we explore and once we hear that someone else is sounding better than us, we're gonna develop this desire to sound better. So when it comes to that part of the job, the loops are kind of really dangerous and most of them are really good in destroying the mix. And I will go in details why. So, the first characteristics of the loops is that they are a combination of various percussions or percussive instruments. They can be hi-hats, toms, congas, whatever, any kind of the small impulses they're gonna create, the noises, claps, snares, whatsoever. So once we drop them in, they can enhance the whole sounding of a track, and they do bring something that's really good sounding and kind of special to the music, especially for the Psytrance music and mostly for the progressive and full-on. But when it comes to the sound quality, they can really destroy it. So their first characteristic that they are loops, which means they are attached to a certain BPM. So the first thing we need to do in order to fit in our track, we need to time stretch it and in order to fit with our BPM. It might happen that the loop is the same BPM as our track. The second is that, as I already said, we already have the kick, the bass, let's say hi-hat, close hi-hat, open hi-hat, snare, clap, whatever, rides, whatsoever. And then we're gonna drop the element that is already having a lot of these elements as well. So there's going to be a certain differences in a frequent range or in a frequent spectrum, as hi-hat is gonna play here, then clap is here. So they're gonna vary also from that side. So kinda really important as well. So the third one is the dynamic, and maybe one of the most important. As we all know, let's say that the transients, especially in the Psytrance music, can be really dangerous. So the transient is the short impulse of the sound and it really happens really fast. And the best way to explain the transient is if I play with just the closed hi-hat, as the closed hi-hat is something that really describes, in my opinion, the transients. Something that's really short and really powerful. So there's a huge burst of the sound and then it disappears really fast. So when we talk about the loops, they're gonna contain a lot of transients because they're gonna be mostly built from the elements that contain a lot of transients. Combining with the close hi-hat, with the snare, with other elements that we already have in a track. So in a Psytrance, like also the single shot sounds have the transients, the leads, the arps. We are making music that is containing a lot of transients. So once they are summed all together, they're gonna create like a huge burst of the sounds. And in my opinion, I believe that just reducing the peaks in a certain amount can actually help our track. So this is going to be another point of sorting up the loops. So let's start with it. I already prepared. I already sorted the two loops because I want to be as fast as possible. As yesterday, I just recorded over 25 minutes of the video. I just dropped in from the media browser from Cubase, which is automatically going to stretch the loop to match the BPM. And before that, I just want to play actually the kick and the bass because I believe they sound really clean. So when it comes to the cleanness of the sound of the whole track or the mix, this is where loops can really not help us that much or actually can make everything to sound even worse. So okay, so pretty short, but I have a kick over here. Extremely short transient on it. It's kind of a hi-hat. The bass line. A lot of pluck, which means a lot of transient as well. The second bass line. Now the snare. Pretty short transient. The second snare. Also short transient. Close hi-hat. Really short one. Really strong one. Another close hi-hat. Really strong one. These ones I already reduced the transients and reduced the peaks of them. Shakers and small open hat, they are not important, but we have a lot of elements already. Let's hear the single shot sounds. They do not have that much, because I think reducing them can actually help the whole mix. Let me delete just these two channels. And now on top of everything, we're dropping the loop. And let's hear just the loop. So this one does not have that much, but still I chose this one because it's more like a techno vibe, and I do believe that it's gonna bring something really good. But I chose this one just because of the first topic which I just mentioned, or the first point is that they're going to be time stretched. Where exactly are they hitting? Are they hitting exactly on the grid? Now someone might say like, okay, but it's okay if there is a little bit of the offset of the timing and whatsoever, which I believe is okay for different genres, but for a psytrance, in my opinion, all these small offsets of the loops can actually make everything to sound more dirty. So if I have the close hi-hat hitting exactly here on the grid, and then I have the loop over here, and then maybe I'm gonna add another one, and if you have this offset, instead of that clean shot on the grid, we will have something like ksh. But if you want, of course, the offsetting can be really nice and it can provide a different groove, but then I believe that all of them should be kind of synced, because all of these small shots or the transients, when they hit, this is kind of our grid, and this is what our ear is going to perceive as a grid. So if you want to offset, then I would need to make all these hi-hats to match with them. So I believe that offsetting of the grid can sound really good and can provide a good sounding to the groove and the track itself, but I do believe that all of them needs to be synced. So if I have three different elements, one that is offsetted for a little bit ahead, one that is exactly on the grid, and one that starts before, I'm gonna have three different elements that are gonna fire in the three different timings, which means they're gonna create something sounding like ksh. And this is actually what we perceive as a dirty. The first thing I will do in this case, I would set my cursor on the 1/16th, and in Cubase it's really nice. If you hold Alt and press, it's gonna cut all the way through the whole loop or the whole sample in 1/16th. I'm gonna shorten it up because I wanna speed up this process. So the next thing I will do, I will go in and I will start correcting all of these things, as I want all of these shots to start exactly on the highest point or exactly where the transient is. So I'm just gonna shorten it up. I'm gonna move to the next one. Next one is not important. The third one, I always look for this highest moment, and I believe this one is here. It can start here, but I'm gonna choose to start in this position. Then the next one is completely off sync, and I will move that. This one is good enough, like this one, this much I can tolerate because I don't think this can be heard that much in the mix. This one I will always set on this beginning point as well, and I will do that for all of them in order to make everything to sound good one, because this loop already, it has a little bit of the swing, as I can see that every second 16 is a little bit ahead of the grid. So I want to correct that, as I want this loop that I dropped in to match the groove of the track that I already work in. So if I don't have any swing, and if I have the element that is on the swing with the high transients, I do believe that it's going to destroy the mix. So this is the second, the third one. I'm trying to be as fast as possible, but I want to show you the whole process. Okay, let's say something like this. So I'm looking for the high point of the energy. Okay, now, and just because they are now cutted in a way, there are certain gap in between of them, so I'm going to apply a little bit of the fade out. I'll choose a different curve. And this sounds really good. If I want to fill these gaps in, I will apply a little bit of the reverb just to create these tails. Now, the second thing which I just mentioned is the dynamic, because we have this shot over here, and we can hear that some of these shots are extremely louder from the rest of them. This is the second thing I will do. And I always like to do it manually, even though there are tons of the ways. I could apply the compression, I could apply the limiting, I could apply a distortion or saturation in order to reduce these highest ones. But I honestly believe that if I already started cutting them and everything doing by manually, it's not that hard for me. So I'm looking to something that I just match the levels of them, because what is going to happen if there's a difference, let's say 5 dB, and I push the level of it inside of the mix together with all the drums, I will be able to hear only these highest ones, while all this in a lower volume, they're just gonna disappear in the mix. So kind of making them similar or close to each other will actually help us to bring in the mix so they can be heard better, especially in a Psytrance and the high levels that we work today. And if you want to have the loud mix and clean mixes, this is what you need to do. It's not that you need to do, but this is how I'm doing it. This is the good perspective. Anyway. Okay, I think I overdid it right now, so I'm just gonna reduce that because I'm trying to talk and... Okay, something like this. Yeah, something like this I would use, and maybe I'll put a little bit more of the fade out, because I honestly believe that shorter and the length of all of these shots is also really important for the cleanliness of the mix. The second thing, as I already said, dynamics, because it's loop, I don't need them in the low frequencies, so I will definitely apply a low cut. something like this. And I will reduce a little bit of the mids. And for the percussions, I will always reduce a little bit of the highs as well. But I can still hear that there are certain ones that are jumping. So the next thing, how we can fix dynamics, I will try to use Saturn 2 with the broken tube. Okay, I think only this one over here. This one is louder from the rest of them. Okay, so. This one also. Okay, so. Yeah. Okay, so this one, then what I would try to do if the distortion doesn't do enough, I will, let's say, try with the standard clip, standard clip by reducing the clip over here. And the third way would be with the G2 limiter, and I also believe that the cleanest one and the best way to reduce or to limit or to kind of destroy all these transients and to equalize is with the invisible limiter G2. For some reason, I get the best results because what's happening with the standard clip is that it produces a little bit of the low end, which I don't like that much, and then I need to apply a low cut whatsoever. The invisible G2 does the same, but there is a sweet spot. So usually I'm gonna reduce. Yeah. Still, I'm getting the best results again with G2. So this is a process that I would apply. So this would be one sorted. So there is another one. Okay, so this one now is on 147. I'll put the musical mode. I didn't do for the previous one. So when they are not matching the same BPM, the previous one did so. So I would stretch it in a way so it fits from the grid to grid. And then I will do the same as I did in the previous one. I would hold Alt and I will click and it will cut them on exact points of each 16th. And then what I will do, I will turn off the stretch mode. So I will bring them back as original because they're gonna sound the best. And once we stretch them, all these transients, they're going to be kind of destroyed, or the stretching does something that is not so good for the sound itself, and I always try to avoid it when it's possible. Especially for the loops, it is possible, as I already explained how. So now when I play it, and again, this is way better example because this one is way stronger with the transients. So the next thing I will do, I will open G2 straight away. Again, I will reduce the lows. This one still has a lot of transients. In certain parts, there's like something that's really painful to the ears. So I would apply Saturn again after the limiter as well. But if you are able to hear, if you have a good speakers or if you have a treated room, we can hear a lot of resonances of this one, especially on the hi-hat, and we can see that also on the analyzer. Here, so there are certain frequencies that are jumping out. For that, there's no better thing than Suit or M Spectral Dynamics, which is really good, and I think it's better than Suit. It's way more complicated and harder to use because it has tons of the options. But first thing I will do, attack on 0 because I'm attacking the transient, so I want this to start working straight away. Release also can be fast, like 12 milliseconds is enough. And now I want to increase the resolution and smoothness to reduce down. This is going to increase the CPU usage, of course. And there's a threshold over here and there's a ratio. So I'll increase the ratio. Okay. I will try to increase the resolution. And not the input. Okay, the output. Okay, not that much. Let me just loop this. Yeah, I started to mix to get confused with I'm using so many different softwares right now. So all the shortcuts I'm kind of forgetting. So let me try. Whoa. There's another thing which is amazing in the M Spectral Dynamics is there's a threshold, but we can draw the line of the threshold on which elements or which frequencies we want it to work more. So let's say, because now I think it's working more on the highs and less on the mids, I'll just make it like to compress more of the mids as well. All this on top, which you see, is the resonances that it, or the harmonics or whatever, but in this case, I would say resonances. It's gonna just reduce them down. Okay, threshold maybe up. Or if I now turned all of them off. Oh my God. And after all of this, I will insert the Pro Q because of everything we did. It did bring a little bit of the low end back, so I will kinda... But still, this resonance I really don't like in this point, so I'll definitely manually reduce that one, this frequency. And also there's like a high point, there's a drop, and there's again back. So again, I will apply the high cut, 18. Okay, so let's hear how this sounded in the mix. But I already prepared them, so I'm gonna play what I did previously on these two channels, so... yeah. But this one is mixed because it's lowering the volume, and the second one is... yeah. So, without... and with... without... with... So the loops, they are creating something really unique sounding. There's a combination of various, and they bring richness to the whole track. But as I already explained, they can destroy the mix a lot, and this is what I can hear a lot to the kind of amateur producers as well in my music previously in the last 10 years. And because of this, I was avoiding a lot of loops, but then I found a way how to sort them and how to treat them in order so I can use them again and they can provide a good sounding element and they don't destroy the mix. The fourth point can be the stereo separation, as they are connected with many different elements and pretty short ones as well. So they will have a different position on these left and right. And also sometimes I will apply if there are certain mono ones and then just one hit is like completely stereo. I really don't like them. If they are one element, I would like all of them to be in the same position, same wideness, same position. I think this is what's also important for the mix itself. What I would do in this case, I would make it mono, so stereo and hazer. I would make it mono first, so I have everything mono, and then I will do mono to stereo, and this way it's gonna make all of the shots in the same stereo. Now, when it comes to mono to stereo on the drums, try to use as less delay as possible and avoid the phasing issues, because if we use the delay, then what we did, we made the offset of timing of the grid for one channel. So I would use the color mostly. Now with 2.5, I'm not getting enough. So something like this. But for this case, I didn't need to do that. All right, that would be all for this video. Thank you very much for watching and see you soon with another video. Bye, ciao.